Hey everyone, Brad here again for War Stories Part 2. Today I'm going to talk to you about lessons learned, which is kind of like the underlying theme for all of this stuff. But this is going to be kind of focused on some experiences from 2 deployments, both to Iraq as an explosive ordnance disposal team member for one and a team leader for the other. If anybody's unfamiliar, EOD is essentially the military's bomb squad. So I'll just get right into it and start with the first deployment was to Balad Air Base, also known as LSA Anaconda. We deployed there in 2005. It was early 2005 that we got in country because we were at our combat skills training in December, I remember, in 2004. But anyway, we get into country, and my 4-person team out at our forward operating base, FOB Caldwell, out towards the Iranian border. We were all stationed together as well back at our home duty station. So we all knew each other pretty well, which was very helpful, of course, for not having to worry about going through all the team formation stuff. But anyway, I was teamed up with a guy that I knew really well, like I said, and also hung out with on top of that outside of work. So that made it even easier. He definitely had high standards. I think almost all of us are kind of perfectionists in some way, shape, or form, because sometimes you don't get a second chance if you make a mistake. So that means we also hold ourselves to a high standard, especially if things don't go the way we plan, because it could result in somebody getting hurt or killed, or lots of people getting hurt or killed. Having said that, we had worked together there on this deployment for a couple months, and 6 or 7 days a week we would be out clearing giant ordnance piles out on the border from the Iran-Iraq war. We've probably got a couple of improvised explosive device or roadside bomb calls a week, and we would run out there in our armored Humvee, and as a team member it was my job to drive the Hummer, prep the explosives when we get on site, drive the robot, put the team leader in the bomb suit, do all the supporting stuff for the team leader, who in the end has the responsibility to make all the decisions. So we get out there for what's called in as some disturbed earth with wires, and we show up and it's kind of out in just the middle of flat desert, just this paved road going from one town to the next, pretty well frequented and well traveled by American and coalition forces. So I had one of the security guys that found it, had him come over and look over my shoulder while I'm driving the robot and have him help me get guided into where he saw this disturbed earth from, several hundred feet away with the robot. So I'm driving the robot around, and by this point I got pretty good with the robot, and I was using the older generation PackBot, for those who are familiar, so not very heavy, which meant when I try to dig, it just doesn't dig very well, right? It's too light. But I spent a good 20-25 minutes like just searching all in this area, digging, trying to dig, barreling through the weeds, and I just couldn't find anything. Previous ops, myself and my team leader, we'd get on scene, we'd have the robot running down range with a counter charge and a charge placed or cleared it in 15-20 minutes, the whole op ready to go, head back to the next call or back to the forward operating base. So the fact that I was out here running this robot for 20-30 minutes and still haven't found what the heck I'm looking for was really frustrating, right? And of course, the whole time I'm feeling a lot of self-induced and externally induced pressure to make sure that if there's nothing there, I know for a fact there's nothing there, because if we can't find it with the robot, we have to go down manually most times, where a person has to walk down there, which is exactly what we wound up having to do. So I want to make 100% sure that there's nothing there, because if I screw that up, I could get my team leader killed. So of course the stakes are pretty high, right? So after a certain point, the team leader's like, okay, you know what? We're done with the robot. We have maxed out its capability. I'm going to get in the bomb suit. I'm going to go down there and take a look at what's going on. So I get him dressed out. I prep his explosives for him. It was pretty hot because it was the summertime, about 130, 140 degrees. And you throw on that 70, 80-pound bomb suit, and you run the risk of heat injury pretty quick if you're not careful. So what we would do is we'd hike them up, that team leader up on the Hummer, and drive them down close, and then they could hop off and not have to walk as far, because we were usually pretty far away from the IED for safety. So I drop him off, I kind of back up a little ways, and I'm watching through the windshield, and I see him walk down range. And as soon as he gets right on top of where the soldier had told me that he saw it, I see him immediately pull the igniter on his countercharge that I prepped for him and put it down on the ground and start to move pretty quick away from there. So of course I throw the Humvee into gear and haul ass down there, grab him by the bomb suit, hike him up onto the Hummer, throw it in reverse, and go as fast as I can backwards. And get him up there to the security element, pull his helmet off, shove a water bottle in his face, and then just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And he didn't even make any kind of big deal of it. I still felt terrible. He could have told me that I was absolute garbage and I would have agreed with him and all that, but he didn't, right? Which was really weird to me. Really, really weird. But the countercharge detonates, and sure enough, 3 artillery shells come flying out of the ground. And we go about collecting those up and blowing them up somewhere else, move on with our day onto the next operation, whatever it was. I still remember that one pretty clearly, and I still feel like I failed sometimes, except until recently when I started to think about the following deployment. And I was a team leader on this next deployment in Baghdad, and a very similar situation, except we're in an MRAP, so there's 3 of us, and we're driving down this muddy road. On one side is about a 10-foot embankment down into a marsh, over like a farm field marsh or something like that. And then down on the other side, it goes into a 10 to 15-foot deep canal. And we're in this huge 6-wheel MRAP, and we're just doing this number the whole way down because of the mud, just flinging mud everywhere, and the truck's sliding, so nerves are a little high already. But we have been called out to a command wire IED on this road, and we get out there, and the security guys thought they were doing us a favor by cutting the wire. That way it couldn't go off. But what that wound up doing was making it really, really hard to find. And my teammate, the robot operator in this call, was one of the best robot operators to this day I've ever worked with. He found a blasting cap with like maybe 2-3 inch long red wires, just 2 wires sticking out of this little thing that looks kind of like half of a pencil and silver case in a bush. Like, amazing robot operator. So he's downrange where this thing is at. The security element had guided us in, and he's going all over the place, flinging mud, just caking this robot with mud, looking for it, trying to drag the claws and turn whatever he can up. And after about 20 or 30 minutes, I don't remember exactly how it went down, but we got to the point where we said, okay, the robot has met its limit. So I get out of the truck, I go down there, and there's just like this like straw all over the road, probably from like the marsh right next to it. And I'm kind of brushing some of that straw away, and then a piece of alternator wire just sticks straight up. So I put my countercharge on that, pull the igniter, get back in the truck, we back out of there, and it detonates and cuts the whole road in half. It's probably like somewhere an 8-foot crater, right? So it's a pretty big charge. And it was kind of like at that point where, I had some deja vu, except now I'm on the other side. And, the last thing I wanted to do was have my robot operator shut down because he feels bad, So we still got more operations to do. We just have calls stacked up on top of each other. And, the last thing we need is for somebody on the team to beat themselves up and keep themselves down because they feel like they failed. So what I learned here, I guess maybe it was a lesson in maturity that my team leader had taught me previously without me realizing it. And, making sure to reassure that guy, like, hey, you did everything you could. There's no way you were going to see that. So, keep your head up and let's get the next one. And I know you're going to kick its ass. And that's exactly how it went afterwards. We kicked every call's ass that we ran into, almost every single one. It was awesome. We were one of my favorite teams to work on, is the best way I could put it. We just gelled so well, and we just knocked things out of the park. And we never had any major like incidents or any issues at all. We just worked together great. So that was kind of the lesson that was learned, because that's what these things are about really, is lessons learned. And then the other note to that I didn't really understand until the last couple of years when I started thinking back to these experiences is sometimes you don't learn right away. Everybody wants everything right now. Sometimes it takes some time to learn. Sometimes you have to be put in a different position to see things from a different perspective to learn. And the biggest takeaway for me from thinking about all these things is, it doesn't have to be win or lose, right? Especially if nothing bad happened, right? Nobody got hurt. Nothing blew up that we didn't want to blow up, right? So in the end, we didn't really lose, but we had an opportunity to learn how to, help each other, pick each other up whenever anybody's feeling down or feels like they might have failed. And that's kind of a part of life. You can't win every single time, no matter how good you are. There might be some kind of limitation or some other instance that comes up that's completely out of your control. And it's up to you what you want to do with that. Do you want to let that beat you down and hold you down? Or do you want to look at that and say, what can I do different next time? Or how can I prevent this in the future? Or what can I take away from this in order to help me be a better version of myself? So really, the only way you lose is if you don't do that. We win a lot, and wins are great, but you can't win every time, The little final parting thought I'll wrap it up with is a really cool acronym that I heard in a class I was taking a couple weeks back. That you look at the word FAIL, and if you look at the word FAIL as an acronym, it stands for First Activity and Learning. So whenever you find yourself thinking you failed, you might not be able to learn from it right away. It may take a couple weeks, couple months, maybe even some years, but you don't ever really lose if you learn from it. So hopefully that was some interesting war stories there, and something that everybody can maybe take something away from. Hopefully I was able to keep your attention and not distracted by this awesome waterfall behind me, but I can't help it. I would much rather be out in nature talking about these things instead of sitting in my house or somewhere else. So let me know what you think in the comments. Hit me up on the Project Felix webpage. I'll make sure to include some links. And be good, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.